much do you think this weighs? You think you could carry it? And if so, for how long? If you're trying to ask that question, a better one would be, well, Stephen, what's inside? Well, over the course of some years, I packed it with all of these different things that I considered to be important and what made them me. In this particular case, last time I packed it, I was on my way to one of the harshest conditions in the world. So, medical supplies, food, water, but I also packed expectation, doubt, fear, resilience, I thought. One of the things that I did remember is a change of clean clothes, a miniature spicy sauce, because after all, I am Mexican, so I need to have some of that. And I packed a very small piece to remind me that even in the most challenging of conditions, I needed to continue to keep going. As you can see, I'm just a regular guy. One day, I decided to put on search, well, what's the toughest race in the world? 3 seconds after, I was heading onto the Moroccan desert for a 9-day self-sustained 250K march or run, however you decide to do it. 48-degree weather, self-sustained, self-driven, self-supported, no shade, no comfort, and yet I miss it every day. Some of the things that I packed, I chose. Some of them were required. Some of them I didn't even question. When you're running a race and when you're at the starting line, feels a lot like what deciding what to study in college would be, or what your first business would look like, who are you going to meet, and how's it all going to turn out. You start questioning all of these things, and I had all of these questions right before we were going to start. And I figured out quickly that I didn't need the answers back then. It was the motion and intention who was going to start that revelation, and I needed to give myself the opportunity to go out there and solve that. When we see a driven path or a drawn path, it's very easy to say, well, I think figuratively, I think I'm on the right way. You start to notice small things. You see people ahead of you, and you start to notice the footprints in the sand. Footprints would tell you, well, someone has been here before, and at least I should be somewhere on the right path. As you can see, there's a lot of ways to get to the same destination. So each one of our paths is very unique, and you have to choose which one is best for you. One of the things you don't notice there, and I learned the hard way, is if you if you chase behind someone's footsteps, that actually softens the ground and it makes each step you take even harder to make. So when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, that is when you start to become, and you start to notice, and that is where you will find yourself. Now, the same way that you're noticing things, you need to remember that behind you there will always be someone that is going to be looking for your footprints. So even though your path may be a little bit harsher to navigate, it's always the example for someone that's trying to find their own way behind you. So we pack things in our mind thinking of what they should be doing. And when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, it doesn't negotiate. It only has one question. Will you keep moving forward? Now, at the beginning of day one, what I noticed also is that in this bag, I had also packed different versions of myself that were no longer needed. I had done the work to prepare myself. And on that morning, what I figured out is there was nothing left to prove. I was already there. I was in it. All of that expectation and all of that demand to go out there and figure something out, all of that melted with the sunrise in the middle of the desert. So once I noticed and I had that, I packed all of that and I left it on the very first step and I never looked back. What I did find out is our race started on a Sunday, so I wanted to have a conversation with Saturday Stephen. I wanted to know what he was thinking about all of this. I was curious to see if he would have been excited or exhausted, fatigued. All I knew at that point is that I wanted to make him proud. So I took that first step and I never looked back. One thing when conditions start to get really, really hard is you start to find a way in which pain doesn't disappear, but it loses its power. You start noticing things that were complicated, you start to thrive and you start to ask for more. And the more you have, the better you start to perform, to a point in which you start to blend with the environment and you start to see another side of you that you never thought existed. You stop worrying about the finish line. You stop worrying about tomorrow. You stop thinking about who's watching and if anyone is watching. None of that's important anymore. You start to look at, how do I get through today? And that becomes the new purpose. When you're out there in the desert, it starts stripping things away. I lost about a tenth of my weight, 8 of my 9 toenails. I had blisters in places didn't even know you could get blisters, and cuts in places that took months to heal. And yet, in all of that, I found a purpose to continue. There was nothing in my mind that was going to take me away from what I was out there to try to find. Now, status doesn't outlive exhaustion, and ego doesn't survive the night. Now, at my very, very, very low point, and this is a hard part because I remember it clearly. I remember exactly the point where that it's the point of break in the desert. There's only one rule: is do not get beaten by the camels. So at my lowest point, I saw the camels. I was minutes away from getting disqualified. There was only one decision I had to make. Either that's the story I was going to take, or was I going to pick up my bag? As I did, I remembered my girls back home and I decided to take that next step. After that, there was nothing that was going to stop me from finishing that race. Out there, yes, finally, purpose. I knew what I needed to do. Purpose looks differently out there. It's not hanging on a fancy wall next to diplomas. It's not written on a mission statement. You don't get a meeting invite on it. There's no speeches. There's no rewards. On that desert backdrop, everything starts to become so clear, and it starts to generate this new persona. And on those conditions, it's when the strongest teams and the best teams start to get created. Now, I was very fortunate to meet some of the seven most incredible people to make part of my team. When one of us or any of us fell down or fell behind, we go back and we pick them up. Someone's out of water, we give them water. We'll worry about that next time. I got you next time. If you need help carrying weight, we will carry it. On the next time, you will carry it for us. You don't have enough, we will share. We take care of each other and we take care of today. Now, when you're out there, you start to see a transformation from individual to collective. All of us start not to worry so much about what's happening with my race and my journey, and it becomes our journey. All of the individual becomes a unity, and everyone that's around there starts to share in their journey, and it becomes that sense of concern of, if we all left in the morning, we all need to make it back before night. Now, these conversations followed me home, and I have them as clear as the shadows I chased for 7 days straight in the desert. I understood that through all of the silence, I was able to listen, and my insanity started to define my own reality. I took that with me, and it's how I lead teams through 6 countries at the moment. Every lesson that I learned in the desert, I apply every single day in every decision that I make. Now, when you're out there and you think you're all alone, that's when you start to meet yourself. That's when the true nature of your spirit and the unbreakable heart starts to define what that next step is going to be. So after 7 days and 60 on-trail hours, I took my last step, and I finished with the biggest smile that I had drawn up in years. For a brief moment, there was no next step. That was it. It was over. It was done. And what I took from that is, in reality, I was never alone. Is that person that I wanted to meet was always standing next to me, and different versions of myself started to manifest with every step that I took, and I needed every single one of them to get through this. Today, all I can say is every single one of you is built for the long run. What are you carrying?